Hey everyone, I am back. It's Dr. Hammond here with your mental health moment. You can still see me because I think there are some technical issues happening here. Um, so it's Dr. Hammond here with your mental health moment. Again, hopefully you can see me and hear me today. Let me know in the comments. I am on the mercy of a hotel Wi-Fi, which sometimes gets a little difficult sometimes here. Hopefully, I can also see your comments. But again, for those of you who are tuning in for the very first time, welcome, welcome. Oh, I can see your comments now. Wonderful. Welcome. For those of you who tune in every single Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, welcome back. Good evening to you as well from San Francisco's in the house, Massachusetts. I am in Indiana today, but I do reside in Florida, Tampa Bay area of Florida. And hi, welcome, welcome. Thanks so much for joining here. For those of you who are watching the replay on YouTube, welcome, welcome. Be sure to subscribe. All the replays are always on Dr. Nikisha Hammond YouTube page, so you can be sure to check those out if you miss any. For the month of February, for those of you who missed it, we were going over some tips for self-love, positive self-talk. All of us need it. We're all on this journey together, this mental health and wellness journey together. And this month, we'll be talking about ways to release, right? Ways to release some things. A lot of us, every single one of us, have certain things that we need to release, right? In order for us to become better versions of who we are. And thanks for those who are still starting to join here. From Rochester, New York is in the house. Welcome, welcome. Georgia, Zephyr Hills, Bay Area, South Beach to South Beach, Miami. Let's see, Virginia's in house, St. Louis, Missouri. Welcome, welcome. Thanks so much for joining here. Though, for those of you who are new, the very first Tuesday of the month is devoted specifically to children, children and teens. Our youth absolutely need mental health as well, mental health wellness, mental health treatment, all those sorts of things. So whether you are a parent, a grandparent, you know of someone who has a child, or you work with children in any way, then these first Tuesdays of the month are definitely devoted to you all. Welcome for those who are still starting to join here. Texas is in the house. Charlotte, St. Louis, Missouri, Nevada's in the house. Welcome, welcome. So today, again, we're talking about ways to help the children in your life, children, teens, whomever it is in your life. And one of the first tips I want to give you today, actually with our theme this month of how to release, one of the things I encourage you to do is really being aware of the language that you use around children, right? Saturday, March 25th, I'll be I'll be the keynote at a conference in Ocala. It is, let me get the name of the place. College of Central Florida is where I'll be located for those of you interested. And if you need the details, you can always check out my Dr. Nikisha Hammond Facebook page, which has all the details if you are in the Ocala, Florida area. But one of the things I'm talking about at the conference is really this idea of family mental health and this idea of recovery, because a lot of us, as we all know, are all recovering in one way or another from COVID-19, the pandemic, and everything that it brought, continuing to recover, right? So, one of the tips I want to give you today when it comes to children is to really think about releasing or thinking about what language you are using around them. And thanks for those who are still starting to join here. Um, thank you so much. Someone said, make sure I subscribe. Thank you so much. Louisville, Kentucky is in the house. Welcome, welcome. And what I mean by language is the terms that we use, right? So for example, I remember, and actually this term is still being used. So I remember growing up, I grew up in a single parent home. And a lot of times people would just say, oh, you came from a broken home, right? But I don't think that's true now as an adult, but as a child, hearing things like that, right? You come from a broken home, and all the sorts of labels that we want to give to mental health. Oh, you're so ADHD, or you're so bipolar, or you're so this or that, right? And we're saying these things to kids what happens is kids cannot, their brains are not as developed as our adult brains. They're just physiologically not, emotionally, mentally, they are not developed as we are as adults, right? So what you say to children sometimes can last decades, right? Because children are so gullible, they really believe everything you say. So if you said, so when people said to me, for example, like, oh, you come from a broken home, what does that mean to a child? So that means so that then I'm broken, right? So something is wrong with me. So then I'm not good enough. Like all these things start to develop. And it's like, that's not even, I know now that's not even true. But those are the things that still remember, that I would be thinking about, which is ridiculous, right? Like, no. So really, so that's just one example. But really, I encourage you to think about watching your language with children, because especially when it comes to family comes in many different forms, you all. There's no perfect family out there. There's no, if you have mom and dad and two kids, that's a perfect family. No, there's many different types of families and many different forms. There's blended families, there's foster families, there's grandparents raising children. There's a lot of different ways that a family unit looks like, right? And oftentimes, which is my point number 2 coming up here, but oftentimes when we think about family, or actually tell me in the comments, does family always have to mean you are related by blood? If you consider someone your family, tell me in the comments, does it mean that you always have to be related by blood? Yes or no? To be family, right? And thanks for those who are still starting to tune in here. Someone says, I'm a mom of 5. Awesome, awesomes. Blessings to you. Thank you so much for your comments. From Virginia's in the house, Kentucky's in the house. And someone said no to that question. Not at all. No. Wonderful. And that is absolutely correct, right? There's many people that children consider to be their family that's not even blood related. I've heard thousands of stories as a psychologist of people from all different walks of life, frankly, and many people were saved. If you, when I say saved, I mean like emotionally and mentally saved by someone who wasn't even their family member. Like there's people that turned their lives around and they weren't even their family members, right? So, and someone said no, no, no. Oh, someone said you are family. And we may, and you may know someone in your life that you're like, man, I know some of my friends I consider like family, right? We're not blood related, but they're just amazing human beings. I'm grateful for them. They're supportive. I don't know what I would do without them, right? And that is family to me, right? So I'm glad you guys welcome. And someone said a lot of extended children. Absolutely. So that's my second tip for you. So again, the first tip, if you're just tuning in, again, the first Tuesday of every month is always devoted to children and teens. What can we do to help our youth as well? So the second thing today for you to think about and remember is that you don't even have to be related to this child. You probably know a child in your life who could use your support in some way, right? Again, I've heard countless stories, Raw. There are many people who the simplest things, whether it's a compliment, whether it's how can you help their family member, whether it's listening to what a child has to say. Like, I know these sound really simple and basic, you all, but I promise you, because I've had a lot of one-on-one conversations with our youth, they really go a long way. There are some children out there, you know nothing about what is going on in their life. You know nothing what's going on behind closed doors. When you take the time to hear what they have to say, you don't know if they're in a family where they never get listened to. Like, that's powerful, right? To do that. When you take the time to say, oh my goodness, I see someone in need, right? A family member of this, how can I help? That's powerful. And that has an effect not just on the parents or guardians or whomever it is, but it also has an effect on that child. Alabama's in the house. Welcome. Irving, California's in the house. Welcome. Oh, thank you. Someone said you're very there's so many wonderful memories for you for mental health moment. Absolutely welcome. But again, I want to share these really 2 simple tips with you, because a lot of times what happens, you all, and I feel like I preach this like a gazillion times, and I'm going to keep preaching it, is we Yes, therapy is important. Absolutely. Do children need therapy? Some children, yes. Do children need medication? Some children, yes. Do children need all these interventions? Yes. All those things are very important. But let me tell you what the reality is. Okay. There's so many more children that are not getting any of that, that are not getting the therapy they need, that they're not getting the medication that they need, that are not in the right school settings, that are not being taught in the way they need to be taught according to their learning needs. I can go on and on, you all. There's all of that. So if there's all of that and they're not getting what they need from the system, if you will, education, mental health, government, whatever you want to call it, then then we as a community have to show up for these kids, if you will, right? We have to show up because the small things count too. The small things absolutely count. And again, I'm not just telling you something out of a textbook. As I always tell you, I have talked to thousands and thousands of kids, families, people, again, all walks of life. And I hear the stories of what changes people. And 9 times out of 10, it's someone else that they feel cared about them. Like that is what changes the lives of a lot of people, right? The support, the outpouring of support and feeling like someone cares about you. Like that's very powerful, you all. So I really want to remind you of that today. Someone said Atlanta, Georgia's in the house. Welcome, welcome. Someone said it has to be us. Yes, it does. It really does take a community, you all. That's why I want to remind you, number one, again, be careful of the language that you're using around children. Some of this some of this language to me, like I cringe as a psychologist, as a mom, as a human being. Some of the language, some of the things that we are still saying to kids really make me cringe. But that is why I'm sharing this mental health moment to you, to remind you, because I know sometimes we don't even recognize how powerful our language is when it comes to kids. So I'm reminding you today, again, things like when it comes to family specifically, things like you come from a broken home, or this and that, like all these sorts of things, that's not what kids need to hear. We need to make sure we're saying things that are uplifting to them, that are motivating to them. There's no reason why we need to be killing dreams out here. If a child wants to do something, let them dream, let them have those dreams, if you will, right? And also not be constantly bombarding them with all the negativity, because they already have enough of that that they're dealing with, trust me, in school, and what's happening in school, and what's happening in life, and what's happening on social media, and what's happening in the news. All these things are affecting children as well. So if we are able to be the light to them, right? Shine a light in a lot of darkness for a lot of kids, that goes a really long way. Uh, Someone said, trust me, it takes a village to raise a child. It absolutely does. Uh, Someone's here from Canada is checking in. Welcome, welcome. Thanks so much for joining here. It's Dr. Hammond here with your mental health moment. So again, just as a reminder, first Tuesday of the month is devoted specifically to children's mental health. On drnikishahammond.com, I have multiple free digital toolkits to help you, whether you're a parent, again, whether you're in the community with kids, someone with kids, whether it deals with self-care, self-esteem, ADHD, depression, anxiety. There's all sorts of toolkits. Everything is free as far as the digital toolkits on the site. So you're welcome to download that. It's drnikishahammond.com/toolkit. You can grab that and be sure to share that information. It's really about taking these steps, though, also as a community. I can go on and on about what kids can do, which there's a lot they can do too, don't get me wrong. All right, all of us have different parts, and there's a lot they can do too, again, like I mentioned, through therapy, through medication, or whatever it is that they need. There's a lot of specialists that children need in their lives. There's a whole team approach. But today, out of the team approach, I want to talk to you as community members, right? Because we have a part as well to make sure that we are doing our best to support the youth in our lives. They are in a different generation. They are in a different generation. I'm glad someone brought that up. And the thing is, it was funny. I was reading this article, and it makes you remember that they are in a different generation. When many of you watching this, probably when you were a child, you probably didn't have the internet, or you probably didn't have social media, or all of the things that we see now. I mean, when these kids are on their tablets at like 2 years old, 1 year, 1 year of age, and they know how to scroll through things, like that's so mind boggling to me. And just the amount of electronics, the amount of information that they have access to. When you think of all of that, it's a lot. Like it's a lot to process. Our brains weren't really designed to be processing all of the things that we're processing. And I'm talking about for us adults. So imagine for these little kids, like it, like the amount of exposure that kids are dealing with right now is mind blowing to me, frankly. And it's amazing that they're some of them are keeping up. And then we had this thing called the pandemic, right? Which just, whew, there's still kids recovering a lot, many, with the education crisis that happened with, with COVID-19, the world shutting down, all those sorts of things, right? And I say that just as a reminder that there's been a lot. I hope if anything you remember from this mental health moment is how much compassion and how much empathy that we need to have for kids, especially after these last couple of years and all that they have gone through and all they're still trying to process. It is a lot and it's heavy, you all. And it's heavy and it's showing in the data. I can get into that too. The depression and anxiety and all those sorts of things. It's showing our kids are struggling. So again, two things as I wrap up here today. Two things that I want to remind you of. Oh, someone said, it hurts my heart the way some parents speak to their children out in the street. Children are being traumatized at such an early age. Absolutely. Absolutely. Which is why, I can't control what happens in someone else's house. Of course not. Right. We can't control what happens in other people's uh, residences. We don't control that. But what we do control is how we approach children that we know of, right, in certain situations. I mean, man, I can't tell you the amount of kids who I've sat down with and they will tell me about an aunt or an uncle or their mom's friend or someone else who just sat down with them and talked to them about their interests. Like, because to us, we're like, yeah, what, like, so what? But it's a big deal to a kid when you listen to them and they want to tell you about, what's going on in their video games, or they want to tell you about their sports, or they want to tell you about some song they heard, or want to show you a dance or whatever it is. All these kids are dancing right all over TikTok. Well, adults too, right? They want to share those things. Like it's a big deal to sit down and feel like someone cares about you. It really is. And someone said I have a 22, 23 boy, 16-year-old girl, 13 and 8-year-old boy. Awesome. So I'm sure you're super, super busy. Someone said other cultures and community have more than we do. There's no safe space. Well, you know what? I'm glad you mentioned that in the comments, because a lot of kids really feel like that because they've shared that numerous times in numerous places. They do not feel that there's enough safe spaces. But what I want to encourage us to think about, though, is that we have to start creating more safe spaces for kids, right? And you're right. The solution, you know what? I'm going to confess something today to you all. It's a little confession. So at the beginning of my career, I naively thought like, oh, everyone can just go to therapy, and like everyone could just go to therapy and get better, and that's it. And the world would be great. And then, because I was super young, I was in my 20s when I got out of school and I first started my practice. And then I realized, as I had experience in mental health and I saw the world as it is, that yes, for some people, they're able to have therapy. For some kids, they're able to get therapy and get all these services. But then there's so many other kids that are never going to have the opportunity, whether it's because of the stigma of mental health, whether it's because of lack of funding, whether it's because of insurance issues, whether it's because of the system, whatever you want to call it. There's a lot of kids that are not going to be able to get what they need. So then, to someone's point in the comments, when we say, well, there's no safe spaces, we have to create them, though, as communities. We absolutely have to create them. I'm assuming you might have a safe space for you, hopefully, right? When I say safe space, like someone to talk to, or hopefully you have support, or emotionally, mentally, spiritually, a place that you can grow. Hopefully, I hope that for you. If not, there's a lot There's a lot online. There's a lot of community forums. There's a lot of safe spaces, but also we have to equally create these spaces for our youth as well. So again, I encourage you today to think about, when you think about your community, how can you help? And again, the little thing, I promise you, the little things matter too. I really promise you that. um, so I want you to really encourage you to do that today. And someone said, doing check doing check-ins with children is what I've been doing with my grandchildren. Wonderful. Wonderful. That's a wonderful thing. That goes a long way when someone is checking in. If again, a grandparent just said that. Checking in with your grandchildren, that goes a long way. Again, kids want to feel, adults want to feel, right? We want to feel connected. We want to feel supported, and so do kids, right? And the more people, ideally, the more people around who are supportive, the better for the outcomes. But you know what? You might be the only person in that child's life, frankly, not you, the person I'm talking to, but you generally, who I'm talking with. You might be the only person that is supportive of this child in their life at a certain season of their life. We never know. We never know. So that's why I encourage you to really, again, someone said checking in, beautiful. Someone said their communication is different. Absolutely. Um, yep. Someone said Black women don't believe in therapy in their community. Well, I can tell you by the statistics, um, there's a lot of stigma for a lot of reasons related to mental health. Yes, in Black and Brown communities, absolutely. Which is why we are working. I will tell you, behind the scenes, if you will, in the mental health field, we are really, really working to change that. But while that's happening, we can't just wait however many years for this all to change and then the stigma just goes away. We can't wait on that, you all. We have to take we as a community have to step up to the plate, if you will, and make sure that we're doing what we're doing to, again, watch your language with youth, to think of yourself. What if you are like a family to this child, and this child is not being supported with the way they need to be supported? You be the family member then, right? We take the responsibility to do that, right? And also, though, encouraging mental health, encouraging treatment, encouraging therapy, encouraging, there's play therapy for young ones, sometimes it's social skills therapy, sometimes it's parent therapy, sometimes it's family therapy. There's a lot of different types of therapy out there. There's therapy for kids that want to be more active in gameplay therapy. Like, there's so many different types of therapy for kids, but again, understanding there's a lot of kids that will never ever get that. And Yep. Someone said, or they go to therapy and then they return home to a toxic environment, and that happens as well, right? There's a lot of settings that I used to work in when I was in graduate school, a lot of different settings, and unfortunately, yes, that would absolutely occur, which is hard sometimes when there is the treatment, but for some kids, even though they might be in a toxic environment, for them still to have someone, even, if it's a therapist, if it's a person at a community center, if it's a person at a place of worship or wherever it is, to have someone though still trying to pour in, if it's a mentor, trying to pour into this person, trying to inspire them, try to uplifting. Sometimes though, that one person can be so powerful enough to help combat the mental distress that they're in because of their environment. I've seen that over and over and over again. Someone said hello from Indianapolis. Yeah, create a safe space by continuing to spread love. Absolutely. Yep. Someone said, I have a nonprofit organization. I'm trying to get an after school program for my community in St. Louis, Missouri. Wonderful. Very, very needed. There's a ton of research on that too, but very, very needed after school programs. I've seen a lot of really successful after school programs as well. I've spoken to a lot of, educational spaces, if you will, of how we can make these schools or, programs and things like that emotionally safe for these kids, which is really important. So I love that. Kids need a safe zone. They absolutely do. Someone said I teach them. Someone said empathy. Yes. Children and adults need a safe space. Absolutely. Blessings to you as well. Virtual therapy, no excuse. So someone mentioned virtual therapy. When it comes to kids, I will honestly say, so I do not do therapy. I did therapy at the beginning of my career. At this time in my career, I am not doing therapy. I do psychological evaluations some of the time. I speak to different groups across the country some of the times, and I'm involved in a lot of other different projects. Um, However, what I do know for my other colleagues that do therapy, when it comes to virtual therapy with kids, you do need to see if that's the right fit for them. For some kids, virtual therapy is not going to work. It's very difficult, especially the younger kids, but not always. So it just depends on the child. So for some kids, it's going to work great. For some kids, it just might not work for them. They might be needing more of the one-on-one in-person therapy. So it always depends. But yes, the virtual therapy is an option. So I'm glad you brought that up. Someone said, each one teach one. We need each other. We absolutely do. We absolutely do. Therapy helps. Someone said, no judgment. Beautiful. Let's see. From the UK, therapy is very keen as we have generational traumas, community, and collective traumas. Yes. Let me see what you said. Yes, yes, yes. Absolutely very true. And really therapy is looked upon differently depending on the community, depending on the culture, depending on the country. Like a lot of different spaces value therapy differently. To your point, great point. It it can be very beneficial, but again, right now, because of the stigma of mental health, um, we just can't rely on that and just say, oh, everybody just go to therapy. Well, everybody's not going to therapy though for a lot of different reasons. So as a community though, we have an opportunity to reach out and really help our youth. Yep. So that being said, again, for those of you who are tuning in, as I wrap up here, for those of you who are tuning in a little bit later today, if you're in the Ocala, Florida area on Saturday, March 25th, I will be the keynote for a conference out there at the College of Central Florida. So that information is on Dr. Nikisha Hammond Facebook. It's pinned, all the information. If you're interested in that, it is for educators and parents talking more about family mental health and how we can recover, especially after COVID. Very important, again, for our youth and for our families. So I will be out there at that time. If you all need me for anything else, drnikishahammond.com is the best way to reach me. You can always connect on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. I'm on those platforms, usually sharing some resources related to mental health or just some uplifting things, or my journey traveling around the world doing different things and different projects on Instagram. But again, more than happy to connect with you. Again, if you're watching the replay on YouTube, be sure to subscribe. And the replays are always on Dr. Nikisha Hammond YouTube. I hope that you have an amazing week. So the rest of this month will be devoted specifically to what we need to release emotionally, mentally, spiritually. That's going to be for the month of March. And again, starting next week, for those of you who are new, starting next week, we'll go back to what affects us as adults watching this. But again, the first Tuesday of every month is always devoted specifically to children and teen mental health. But make sure to take care of yourselves. Have an amazing, great week. And I will see you all next Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on Black Women Empowered Incorporated Facebook page, YouTube, and LinkedIn Live. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you all next time. So bye, y'all.